When the Kelsey brothers got a podcast deal that was bigger than their football deals, I was like, something has fundamentally changed with the power and leverage that creators have across the board. What's going on, Sam?
What's happening, Jordan?
I bet you people aren't expecting to hear our voices.
No, but they are now.
They are now.
There's no way out. You already subscribed. You're listening. But no, here we are. It's been a minute, man. We had a good run back in the day, over 100 episodes, music business podcast, 350,000 downloads, tons of great conversations, amazing people in the music industry.
Yeah.
But then we just kind of hit pause.
We did. We had a lot of stuff going on, but we're back, and I'm looking forward to connecting with the community that we built. I think that's the most important part about this podcast, other than obviously hanging out with my boy and talking shop, speaking to the community that listens to the podcast, having them interact with each other, meeting people in real life. The last 3 years, we met some people in real life that listen to the podcast, people who started off listening to the podcast and now are executives at companies. It's insane. Yeah. And I'm really proud of the people that we've been able to support during their own careers, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think this conversation in specific, we have a couple of very exciting updates.
We do.
As we actually will be gearing up to start launching the next season of what historically has been known as the Music Business Podcast, but season 2 have a slight different iteration. Before we get into all that, though, catch me up, man. What's been good? It's been 3 years. What are some of the things you're most grateful for in your kind of career and personal growth in these past couple of years?
Number one thing, I convinced someone to spend the rest of their life with me. I got married.
There it is.
Sam was there. He came up to me and said, "Happy birthday" by accident.
Bamboozled, bro.
Yeah.
How'd you pull that one out?
I catfished her. Yeah. Proposed before she met me. And she had no choice. But
no, major congrats.
Sam did pull up on me and say "Happy birthday" by accident at the wedding because he was a little turned.
But you got that line where everybody's progressing to like say something to the groom. But I was just like, I'm like half Italian, bro. Low key, sometimes I get real emotional. Like I was definitely, first of all, your wedding was hilarious. Shed a little thug tear or two. No shame. But I wanted to congratulate him, and I was just like so overrun with emotion that I like blurted out "Happy birthday." Like it wasn't me even trying to be funny. It was just like a complete misfire by way of like a lot of emotion. Like can't compute "Happy birthday."
That we dapped up afterwards.
Yeah, that was hilarious,
man.
It was
great.
That was.
So yeah, getting married, obviously the best thing that's happened to me. I got a cat. Second best thing that's happened to me. I always say my cat Leon opened up a part of my heart I didn't know existed. And then career-wise, and I will post pictures online of Leon. So if you do follow me on social media, they will be on there soon because I am becoming one of those cat parents. But career-wise, I actually started software engineering. So before I worked only with creators. Now I'm in a hybrid role where I work with creators and on the product side. And I work on a team that actually helps build products that help the team that I work with that works with creators. So I get to see the whole life cycle of how things come into fruition, and then I help build those things. It's a really, really fortunate place for me to be in right now, and I can see problems at a much higher level than I used to be able to, and I can have a vision. I have a vision now for how things can not only be, we can help creators from an educational perspective, the way I've been doing it, but also from a product perspective, and I've really enjoyed the growth that I've been able to have by just being around really smart people. To be completely honest.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think it's fun because, I mean, you've been able to have so many great experiences, even going back to days at EQT and artist management, working with artists like Goldlink, Metro Boomin, into more of the kind of like tech and software side of the creator economy. And now both on the side of like creator servicing and partnerships and creator and talent management, as well as the actual kind of like software side within this kind of employer who can't be named due to corporate guidelines that are graciously allowing us to do this show with some light
and
constraints.
Does not reflect my employer's views. I'm Jordan.
Yeah, disclosure made. No, but that's sick, man. I love it.
Yeah. What about you, man? I mean, before the episode, you know, we're coming up with questions about what to talk to each other, and I was really excited to ask you about what you've been up to the last 3 years, because I kid you not, every time we catch up, it's like I've been thrown into some TV show of some sort of entrepreneurship and what it's like to go to a bit. I mean, Sam, you've worked with like you started a couple of businesses. It's funny because you worked at NOX during the last iteration You now work at NOX, but you had some side quests in there.
Yeah, big side quests.
So let us know about those side quests personally and professionally.
For sure. So it was. It's been a fun journey, and I mean, it was funny because actually one of the music business podcast episodes was focused around Web3 and NFTs right as that whole market was starting to heat up. And that sent me deep down the rabbit hole that ended up being a multi-year, full life-consuming rabbit hole. Went on, co-founded a whole new venture alongside two great co-founders. It was called NFT Now, is called NFT Now. Was a phenomenal experience getting to actually, I'd already kind of seen that, been operating an agency for a while and felt like there was a lot of interesting opportunity to take a lot of the same skills around content production, audience development, apply it towards creating a community, a brand, a media publication, and network that could empower different creators and different creatives. Stars that aligned in a really special way led to the co-founding of this venture, NFT Now. It's a great run. I mean, I got to co-create content with some amazing people. We were able to build a kind of network footprint of over 2.5 million people within a couple of years across all of our different profiles, editorial, newsletter, social. We're able to co-create different kind of crazy events. During Art Basel, we had this amazing series called The Gateway that was done in partnership with Christie's. Effectively, the mission of that company was really to empower the creators of culture, largely by kind of trying to foster mainstream adoption around Web3 and more specifically NFTs. I think obviously there's been a lot of evolution within the world of Web3. And I think in that period of time, there was also tons of amazing impact and crazy stories that were just super powerful around different creators that were able to earn income off of their art in ways that weren't previously possible. There were ways in which I was innovating and helping companies create deeper connections with their audience and community. Super grateful for that experience. Kind of stepped away and came back to NOX, which was fun too.
When you came back to NOX, and now that we're starting this new iteration of the podcast, though, what are some of the things that you think you learned from the entire process that you're bringing to this new iteration of the podcast that you brought to NOX when you came back to it?
Yeah, I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, it is very interesting to think about what I'd consider to be like a spectrum of businesses. I think you have big swing venture-backed companies where hyper growth is largely what defines success. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you kind of have bootstrapped cash flow generating businesses might not necessarily have the same trajectory when it comes to like rapid growth potential. I think there's very powerful skills and frameworks on both sides of that equation. The importance of thinking big and really trying to set a standard of excellence around what you're defining as growth, right? Not settling for anything less. On the other end of the spectrum, I think there's, the business fundamentals of cash flow, of profitability within a bootstrap business are also, it's kind of, so for me, I think understanding and getting great exposure into both sides of that spectrum has definitely helped me as an entrepreneur think big, but, and also kind of apply that big thinking within frameworks that ensure consistent cash flow, baby. We love cash flow.
Yeah, you clearly been on some panels too. The answers were tight.
Yeah.
That was a good answer.
I was telling Jordan before we started rolling Canada, it's like I've been the media, and now here on this show, we've both been the talent as well. So the media, and we media trained.
Yeah. Speaking of media, you gotta let them know about your DJ career, bro.
Oh yeah, another side quest. Yeah, another side quest.
Yeah. You gotta let them know.
I didn't find DJing found me. No, but I've always been a big fan of music. I honestly, it's funny because I was in college starting to DJ, and unfortunately, my friend's apartment got robbed, and in there was my laptop with my music library and my DJ equipment. Any DJ knows, a lot of the startup cost of DJing is like downloading and building an actual music library. It's not the same as just like saved a playlist. Like you gotta, so I almost felt like I was like DJ's Derrick Rose, bro. Like I was on this trajectory, this ascent, and a couple injuries, stolen equipment,
bro.
flash forward, didn't DJ at all for 5-10 years, but was still always staying very close to the music industry.
Damn,
whether
it
through
jaded you
throwing
like
events,
that? Damn.
through throwing events with NOX, doing like music marketing with different major labels, different artists, and finally started to dabble a bit further in DJing, and it was fun because I ended up getting me and my buddy Jerron that I kind of co-DJ with and co-produce a bit with, had the opportunity to get some like amazing gigs, man. Got to play at like Avant-Garde, Brooklyn Mirage, got to open for some artists that I really look up to, like Shimza, Kasango. I kind of have like a niche lane in sound and music, but to be able to kind of open and play, like it's just a pure moment of like bliss. And super grateful.
I've turned up to your sets before, and I turned up because you clearly are turned up. Your energy is infectious. It's great. So that's dope. Welcome back.
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, well, let's dive in, bro. We got some news.
Yeah.
What's the news? No, let's see. We got to look back at the news. No, the news. We are very excited. After a hiatus, we are coming back with season 2 of what was the Music Business Podcast, but henceforth will now be called the Business of Talent Podcast.
That's right.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting evolution. We're excited to kind of peel back the curtains a bit as to the rationale and what we're going to be talking about. But Jordan, why don't you kind of talk us through what excites you about this, and from your perspective, what are some of your intentions for the business of talent around what we want to talk about?
I think it reflects two things. It reflects where you and I are going in our careers, and it also reflects the vastness of the talent industry now. We've talked about how the OG talent industry wasn't people on social media. It was Martha Stewart. It was Oprah, the OG influencers, the OG talent.
Mm-hmm.
And for a little bit, there were certain industries that ended up taking advantage of the industry in very positive ways, the music industry being one of them, which is why it made sense for us to have a Music Business Podcast, because it was having a renaissance at the time.
Yeah.
Now I think, with AI, with technology, innovations, content creation is easier than ever for so many people. And we're finally getting to a point where we're sort of approaching this idea economy, where whoever has the best ideas, whoever has the best personality to be a content creator will be the people that wins, because the lower barrier to entry allows much more people to create content off the bat. So I'm excited to not only talk about the vast industry as it stands today, but how influencers and how talent as we see it is also collaborating with businesses in a real unique way. I mean, we saw glimpses of it years ago with like Joe Budden and Patreon and their agreement with each other, and how that was sort of one of the first agreements where we saw an influencer actually become somebody who worked at the business. I think we'll see that a lot more, and I don't think we should boil it down to just music business anymore. I'm excited to talk about the entire talent industry,
Totally. And it's funny too, because I think everybody loves to talk about the creator economy. There's no doubt there's been massive growth within the creator economy, but there's also a lot of like OG creator economies. Like the music industry, musicians are creators. They create effectively content and music. There's IP rights around that content that effectively makes that content like revenue generating asset. Sports teams, like a stadium is a content studio. A sports team is a content play, right? Like, don't get me wrong, you're selling tickets to in-person events, which, keep in mind, in-person events are another form of media, but then you're kind of taking those broadcast rights and the amount of money that is being doled out around broadcast rights. Take it a step further, if we want to talk about sports, look at what Messi was able to do with the MLS and Apple TV. He had an unprecedented deal that gave him rev share in Apple TV subscriptions by way of people signing up to watch MLS. With all due respect, ain't nobody was watching MLS prior to Messi, or at least comparatively as to they are now. And then I think too, even you look at like more traditional like sports media, even like ESPN. Like I think one phenomenal example here is like the Pat McAfee show. This is effectively what is a live stream show that was started with a couple, like Pat McAfee, retired football player, a couple boys. It was a daily sports show talking about sports news, football commentary. has now gone on to be like upstreamed and is a critical part of like daily ESPN programming. I think we're starting to see more and more innovation from talent and more leverage that is accrued by talent, because historically, if you were an athlete, like you couldn't reach fans unless the NBA had the press conference set up, or you were going to the Tonight Show appearance that the team or your agent set up. Now leverage is accrued by way of the fact that talent owns more, or at least owns more of the connection to their audience. And now business models are having to compete and adapt in order to best capitalize upon that. And I think that's both very beneficial for talent as well as business, which really is, in a nutshell, the impetus of the show, right? Like podcast that dives into how shifts in media, entertainment, and the creator economy are reshaping how businesses are built and scaled. So I think it's a fun time. And I think this new, slightly broader perspective of the show is going to enable us to have a lot of great conversations, whether you're interested in music, interested in sports, talent agency, creator economy, brand marketing, right? It really is kind of dialed in on the interplay and growth opportunities and stories and tactics for driving growth in this beautiful overlap of all these different spaces.
When the Kelsey, this is when in my head something broke in a good way.
Yeah.
When the Kelsey brothers got a podcast deal that was bigger than their football deals,
yeah,
I was like, something has fundamentally changed with the power and leverage that creators have across the board.
Yeah.
And that's something that we should definitely dive into in this show, and something I'm excited to talk about. I'm also excited to talk to guests.
Yeah.
I love music business podcasts, just kicking it with people and talking to them and learning from them and expanding our network. That'll be really cool. We got some really great guests lined up too. So
yeah,
really excited for that.
Yeah, no, 1000%. And I think it's, we're reporting live, doing it live.
Fuck it.
We're doing it live. Yeah. No, I mean, this is a developing story. I mean, I think you have these cases where, I mean, you have these like crazy headlines. New heights. Travis Kelce gets that the Kelce brothers gets the $100 million podcast deal. Mr. Beast, another Amazon Prime deal, right? Look at how much money, like how he kind of upstreamed his show into more like a television series that was funded and got the big budget of Amazon in order to produce this like actual like big production series off the back of his traction on YouTube. I think there's different athletes that are now starting to, obviously there's no shortage, can even argue whether or not it's like overly saturated, but all these different like talent centered brands, right? Like I think Mr. Beast and Feastables, the chocolate. Look at Kylie Jenner and 818 Tequila.
Prime energy drink.
No, Kim Kardashian and Skims.
Yeah.
And like even Skims now has all these crazy partnerships with the NBA. I think you have those are some of the massive ones, but even if you go a little bit downstream, I think we're at this interesting point where people have more of an allegiance to individuals over institutions, and brands that understand that well are the ones that are going to win, whether that is individuals creating brands or it's brands that are finding unique ways to partner with different individuals to grow their community, to grow their business. I think it's a really fun and exciting time. I think like another thing, it's we're starting to see even from a brand marketing perspective, right? With NOX, we're doing all this stuff around like growing audiences and driving sales online, like creator in residence, actually having personality driven content on a brand, whether that's actually just kind of having somebody that can do the straight to camera stuff on socials or launching different content series that have talent as a central part. It's creating a really fun and massive opportunity that really is largely due in part to creator economy driven innovation.
Yeah, no, couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that we've seen this reflected in our careers too. You know, I used to only work with music creators. Now I work with creators across the board, bring all types of creators to my employment, my place of work that shall go unnamed. You know, NOX works with a huge array of creators now. Yeah, not just the musicians that you were working with when you started. And I think that's reflective of the creator economy just becoming more diverse in general. And I think there are creators everywhere that have niches that I have never heard of that can feed their families off of things that I did not know they could feed their families off of. And it is a very interesting space to analyze. Yeah. So we talk about not only do we interview people on this podcast, but we'll also talk about the news, which is really, really new for people that listen to the Music Business Podcast. We should go into why we decided to do that as well with people. I'm not sure if you have a few things to say before I jump in, but it'll be a big portion of the podcast coming up.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this segment. Like every single episode, it's going to be like half Jordan and I highlighting some of the best news bits or insight analysis, any interesting reports. And I feel like that too. It's like there's no shortage of information. If anything, we're just like constantly inundated. So, I mean, even Jordan and I are creating different like systems, leveraging AI in order to help curate and aggregate and synthesize different news such that we can help really dial in and make sense of what are some of the most important stories, as well as some of the takeaways and implications around those. So every single episode, it's going to have kind of a news segment followed by an interview segment. Super excited about that. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I'm really looking forward to the news segment because it'll also give all of us a place, something to speak about in our Discord channel, online. We obviously can speak about our interviews to a certain extent, but if we're all up on the news together, we'll all just continue to succeed at the work that we do, whether or not you work in the creator economy. If you want to just keep your finger on the pulse, that's completely okay too. But it opens up another way for us to connect to our communities too. And, you know, me and Sam, we talk to each other about the news. We be dropping some gems. We be having some fire conversations. We want to open that up to everybody on the Business of Talent podcast. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, same. What else, I mean, holistically excites you about kind of getting back into it? What are some of the intentions you want to set as we embark on season 2?
All right, a couple of things. One, I want to have fire guests and fire news. Obviously, the content's got to be top notch. But secondly, the thing I'm also really excited about is showing our personalities on this podcast. Me and you have you said happy birthday, like you saying happy birthday to me on my wedding day is a really good implication of the type of humor that people will also be able to witness on this podcast while they learn. Yeah. We don't want people to come to this podcast and feel like they're sitting down in a classroom. We want them to feel like they're a part of a conversation. Yeah. And I'm really, that's one of my intents for this next one, I think. So I might say some bad jokes. I might say some dad jokes, but it'll all be in service to the news and the content that we're producing. So what about you? What are you excited about?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I think it's funny in kind of like a post-COVID world how much like remote work has created a longing for connection. There's actually interesting like Google Trends, if you look at some of the different charts around stuff, increase in search volume around in-person connection, like stuff like that. So I feel us being able to create that space is going to be really fun. I think there's going to be a ton of really unique guests with unique perspectives. And I think our kind of general like editorial through line and vision for the show of really trying to kind of like, what can entrepreneurs and builders learn from talent? What can talent learn from the operators that support talent or operate businesses within marketing capacities? Right. I feel like there's oftentimes you see these two camps a bit separated, and I feel like we get to open a very interesting door by way of extracting. Like, I think brand marketers should be paying more attention to what the fastest growing creators are doing across social platforms and how that can inform a lot of their content strategy. Like, I honestly feel like a lot of the innovation in marketing actually comes by way of nimble solopreneurs, content creators. Like, that's what they do. And then vice versa. Like, you have like entrepreneurs, you have builders, you have people that have seen and have the deep experience within traditional media landscapes and industries that are able to provide a different perspective that is invaluable for different creators and talent. And I think that excites me. I think another thing too, like Jordan and I are both deep down the AI rabbit hole and are really also just using this as a bit of a forcing function to build out a series of different custom automations, integrations. We've already started building out different agents, different custom workflows that are tying together different tools of software. Like even, it's crazy, like even tactical examples, like from a guest prep perspective, if we know we're going to interview somebody, we have a form, fill out the form, runs through a series of automations to do deep research about that person, sees if they've been on any other interviews that are on YouTube, downloads the transcript of that interview, scrapes their LinkedIn profiles, scrapes their company URL, searches the internet for any recent news, cross-references all of that research against a lot of the kind of core strategic pillars of the show, right? Who are we looking to serve? What are the different key themes and opportunities? And then we'll generate 10 to 15 hyper-tailored questions referencing things they may have said in interviews, different posts they've made, different specific career experiences. It's not going to augment us. You ain't ever going. You ain't gonna have an AI
Yeah, get
version
that
of
AI
Sam and
Jordan out here.
Yeah. They're gonna help us, right? They're gonna superpower us, but. And so I think this, though, is the forcing function for us to do some really fun, innovative things when it comes to these different workflows. Because I also think, too, there's just like, everybody knows AI is about to completely like change the game in a crazy way.
Already has.
But, people, unless you're like really deep down the rabbit hole, like jerry rigging different tools together through automations, through agents, nobody really knows exactly how it's gonna change. So I think for us, this is a fun playground for us to really pilot and build out some really fun tooling to help drive this show to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously, lastly, we get to be just as much up on the news as our audience does. I think this will be a forcing function for us to make sure that we are on top of the news every week. We read all of it. Now we're going to have a meeting every week just to record the news segment. I'm really looking forward to keeping everybody updated.
Yeah, for sure. 1000%. Well, this is it, man. We're back. We're back. You can expect new episodes dropping weekly.
Yes.
Starting next Tuesday.
Yes.
Next Tuesday. There it is. We got a big special guest. Really excited about this first guest. This is somebody that had the opportunity to work with both at NOX and NFT Now. Throughout that journey, he was always working on his own content, and he blew up. I mean, he's been on television interviews, the Today Show. I think it's fun, and I think his perspective, not only as somebody that's like helped build the brands of musicians, of media publications, but now of himself and how he kind of translated that experience into becoming like probably I'll even say one of New York City's hottest creators, right? No, let's get it though. It's facts.
We'll give you a hint. If you've ever seen inside of a New York City apartment on social media, he's probably the one that showed you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's right. So, we're back. We'll be back weekly in your ears. You know where to find us.
In your ears. That's where you'll find us.
Yeah, exactly.
Your ears.
Thank you for rocking with us. Like Lil Wayne said, sorry for the wait, but we back now. All right.
They can't stop us.
Yeah,
even if they stop us.
We need the lighter flick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add that in post. Don't you worry.
Yeah.